Oh, we're live. Hi, Nat. How you going?
Hey, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thanks. I'm in my little outdoor cubby in the back house in the garden at home, languishing in the background with my pretty grim background, actually, isn't it? The one that I've got here. I mean, it's not the best decor behind me, but anyway, yes, well, it's kind of a...
Tea, just to be a little tea set there as well, Tom.
That's it. Yeah, it's turned into a makeshift office, and I've been working like this now for probably the last month through the lockdowns. And like yourself, as we were talking about before, like we've been chatting with a lot of people, and everyone's kind of in this, I don't want to sound too somber, but like everyone is saying that life's feeling a little bit dull at the moment. Is that what you're finding in your practice now at the moment?
Absolutely, Tom. I think it's definitely a global experience right now that we're all feeling. And what we've read in a lot of research, blah. Like that's the word of the description that people are using. But I suppose the more technical description is languishing, which is I suppose that we're feeling like in a bit of a state of limbo. We're seeing a bit of a light, but then we kind of get it put back, and there's still that element of control that we're still we can't get hold of, and especially both of us being back in Melbourne. Kids gone back to school today, and it wasn't a jumping up for joy. It was like, okay, well, we can press that reset button again. But every time we seem to be pressing that reset button, we just seem to be pressing with a little less energy. And so we're kind of, as what other research has been described as, it's languishing is the bit of the neglected mental health child, dare I say. So it's the void between depression and really flourishing and being really excited about what's ahead. We just don't have that element to us right now. So it's really the absence of well-being.
Yeah, well described there. I was thinking about languishing, the word, because you mentioned this would be a good topic to talk about, and I was doing a walk earlier, and I was kind of thinking in my head, it's kind of a feeling like when you're driving your car and you start and your petrol light comes on, you're like, shit, I need to fill up the tank, but then you just leave it there for a little while. It's kind of like I guess, to use the analogy of a petrol tank, we're never really filling it. We haven't really been able to fill ourselves back up to the top level of our gauge, and we're just sort of hanging around where that yellow light stays on, and we're never really re-energizing ourselves, I guess, or at least that's been kind of my experience with having chatted with our people and our clients as well. And like what you said there, like kind of the restrictions have eased today in Melbourne again. Like, great, I can go get my coffee again, but I'm not jumping up and getting as excited as I once was, because I'm like, yeah, this doesn't feel, this will probably happen again. So it's kind of like you're just riding the bumps a little bit more and not sort of getting too high or too low with the experience.
And I think we spoke about that in our Christmas podcast. Wow. We spoke about that 8 months ago, Tom, where we looked at that dichotomy that occurred, especially after Victoria and the long lockdown, is that we had that ability to be able to go and socialise. And it was actually one of the last things we ended up doing because we became exhausted. And so this is like a little bit of the everlasting effect of that. So we saw it come out of 2020, but this is the new 2021 word. And it's something that we're seeing globally too.
Yeah, it's a great word. It's really hard to spell. When I was putting this together, I was like, gee, I like spell. I'm actually all right at spelling, but I was like, this word's got me here.
We don't want to spell it for too long, Tom. We really do want to go through it. So yeah.
That's it. So would you say languishing, it's not really a mental health diagnosis as such, and you were saying before it's not really depression. So what is it then? Is it you're sort of saying it's somewhere in the middle? I'm going to move.
Yeah,
I've got this pretty bright light on me there.
Yeah, and mental, your cubby house has gone dark, has it?
Yeah, there we go.
Mental health, it isn't like, mental health isn't simply good and bad. Okay, so like it's essentially it's a spectrum that encompasses like a wide range of experiences and emotions, and essentially, like we can talk about mental health being on a bit of a continuum, where when it starts to affect like our daily life in a way that kind of is a little bit atypical of the societal norm, then that's when it can fall into that diagnostic category. But one end of the spectrum, let's say, with this topic is depression. So it's characterized, by those feelings of worthlessness, by feeling that sense of helplessness. But on the other end is that flourishing, where we've got that sense of connection. We have that life purpose and goal, and we feel that our life is fulfilled with meaning. We're finding ourselves, or majority of people find themselves right now in the middle. And this is where that term has been coined, languishing. So we're neither depressed, but we're not flourishing. We just seem to be getting by, just a little bit like your car is right now. Not so much, not burnt out, not having that diagnosis there, but it is just about just plodding along, just getting by. Yeah. So we don't have. It's not the symptoms of a classic mental health diagnosis, but it's not the picture of great optimal mental well-being either.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And
you look,
and so
it's a funny description. Sorry, Ty, it's a funny description because it's exactly what people are feeling as well. Like it's floating. Like, so it's the description matches the emotion.
Yeah, and that's probably quite rare that happens, right? I think people that I've chatted with recently, just in passing, and family and friends, it's like everyone is feeling similar. People want, they want a holiday, they book a holiday, it gets cancelled. And so I guess one, like what you said before, it's that kind of lacking of or missing some of that, maybe that meaning, like, why are we going through this perhaps, or, where is this going? It's really hard to, I guess for some people anyway, to find meaning in the current, situation that is the pandemic. Would that be fair to say, or have I just made that up?
No, absolutely. And I think that is probably, something that 2021 has been an incredibly unusual year. That we have been excited and we've been hopeful that a vaccine has been rolling out over the world, but at the same time, it's emphasized like a level of waiting and, if not, having control over what the present looks like and again, what the future will bring. I remember listening even to the news last night, which is, sometimes when you're in that languishing kind of moment, probably the worst thing to do. They were saying, oh, and we all get the injection because everyone's thinking that one day we'll be able to go back and travel. And I thought, even the way that was said, it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean we're never going to travel overseas again? Like, and I just thought that was a really shocking statement for the media to even turn around and say, is that, it's still doom and gloom. And that's not what people need to hear right now. But there is still that lingering feeling of that dread, of that fear, because there's that, and it shows that there's no clear finishing line yet. And even from a personality perspective, what we're finding, and research is now coming out, that individuals who are more extroverted and who have struggled, I suppose, considerably with the limiting of social interaction, they actually are more prone to languishing effects. So that's really interesting too. But, why so many of us are feeling like this so much, and what we talked about again last year is that we've had that limbic system moving in our brain for so long. We've kind of been poised for that threatened situation, and we had that adrenal system and getting us out of those, using that fight or flight system and getting us out of those threatening situations. It's been going on for way too long. From an evolutionary biological perspective, we were supposed to only be in those the adrenal gland is supposed to be used in short, sharp bursts. We're finding that we've been turning it on too often. And what that's done is it's actually even wore us down from an energetic level too. And that's where we just don't feel like we've got anything left in the tank.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I was going back to when we thought about lining this chat up, I was kind of thinking about our old chats that we had last year, and it's a bit sad that we have been talking about the same thing now for from back to before Christmas. But but yeah, that fight or flight response, I guess it's a really easy explanation for people to understand how that works and how it's meant to be used in short, sharp periods. But the languishing word really makes sense when it comes to that, because it's like, well, if there's a lion in the jungle and it's been following you around for more than a year now, you're going to get worn out, you're going to get tired, the lactic acid's going to kick in, and you're probably going to give up. So for some people, they're probably not at the giving up stage, but they're probably just feeling like they're somewhere lost in the middle, I guess. And for work and in the workplace setting now, I guess it's really tricky for employers, managers, or even everyone really. But I guess I'm thinking from a management perspective, like certainly the expectations on productivity have adjusted, but still to create that, I guess, that empathy, that relationship, keep that one-on-one morale with your staff. It's a real challenge when you've got distance. You're still connecting through Zoom and all those other avenues. It's basically a widespread sort of issue, isn't it? Dad, I'm wondering in the EAP space at the moment, because Connect Psych's obviously in that space. Like, I know that the calls have been going up dramatically. Like, can you comment on anything there? Like, what's the situation at the moment in the EAP world?
That's probably what we've been really noticing, is that people are thinking that they're showing signs of depression, and just to be clear on that, is if there is that correlation between that languishing and depression. There's a research now that there has been research that shows that individuals with a history of depression and anxiety, or who are more genetically predisposed to those levels of psychiatric conditions or diagnosis, they are more prone to languishing than others. New pandemic research is coming out, especially in the area of frontline workers, because of the vicarious trauma and the continual, that threatening situation, the limbic system, is that, that who were classed as they were languishing in 2020 were actually on average 3 times more likely than their peers to be diagnosed with PTSD. So it is. Albeit languishing needs to be taken seriously, there is a slight correlation between that and depression, because they are more prone to it. But that's not to say that we can't do something about it. We are seeing a lot of those calls where people are presenting as look, I've got a lack of focus. I'm really finding it really difficult to motivate myself. I just don't have any energy at the moment. I'm always tired. I feel like I need to go and get a blood test because do I have chronic fatigue? We've got, there's days where I can get up and I can be really energetic, and then I just by the afternoon I need to go to bed. And they're not just, I'm hearing that in the workplaces, hearing that personally, hearing that with mums, hearing that with, there's so many areas that it's really, it seems to be touching everyone. I'm just not at my full capacity. So I can understand why people are worried, and thinking that there is something going on. This has been going on for too long, because even with diagnoses, we're actually looking at more so about between a 2 to 4 week period of having it consistently playing out in your life. There might be that, to go and check in with yourself and see whether or not there might be something else going on. But when they do go to their GP, or when they're even calling us and they're realizing they don't really fit in anywhere from a diagnostic character, that's when we're going, okay, so how are you actually feeling, just with when I say work, when I say exercise, when I say socializing, and we can start to see a bit of a pattern that is more indicative that, individuals are really feeling that languishing effect.
Yeah, that's a really good summary of, I guess, some of the signs people are feeling. I've heard a lot of people through winter as well in Melbourne. Sometimes it's a bit hit and miss, and it's pretty cold, and people are just, I guess, tired and unfocused. I also think maybe, and I'm not the expert here, but I feel like maybe because a lot of us are working remotely more than ever and are using more devices. So like being on the computer, having your phone on and off, people calling you, it's not as fluid as, say, in an office environment where you get that collaboration and you can kind of, instead of setting up a 15-minute call with someone that's on a computer, you can get it done really fast. So I feel like there's a little bit of that digital overload almost in some ways, which if you, in my head, that makes sense that could then carry over to something like sleep. And then if you're not sleeping because you wake up and you're on your phone straight away, or you're, checking emails or working later in the night, it just sort of feeds that, that lifestyle perhaps of where you're distracted and unfocused, and obviously flow-ons into nutrition and probably alcohol. Like I wrote in the comments yesterday, I was like, I hope in your recommendations is red wine, because I found last week that my wife and I were like, oh, we got the box of Fino Mofo at the door and we're like, cool, it's Tuesday night, let's have a wine. And it's kind of like, well, fun, but like we can't do this every night, can we?
yeah well and that's exactly it. Like, and what I'll chat about in a minute about, like, what kind of techniques can we put in between us. But you're so right, like, that we've heard so many times that you pick up the phone in the morning, that and I'll talk about tech health and tech hygiene in a minute, but to get up in the morning and then to go, okay, I'm getting up to exercise, to turn my alarm off. Oh, all of a sudden there's been a notification from Instagram or from Facebook or from LinkedIn or from anywhere. And all of a sudden you just find yourself scrolling, and there goes an hour. Okay, because you're like, oh, bugger it. Like, I can't, I'll just keep on doing that. And that's like the bit of that languishing effect. And we're seeing that even that inability to focus, or that lack of that motivation, or the dulling of the motivation, is actually tripling the odds that we actually end up cutting back on our work. And not only, it may not even be the hours, it might be just the performance. So we are seeing that creep up again of the presenteeism, where we're here, just like you said, we're just sitting there doing the emails, but are we really doing the emails? Are we really writing it? Or are we just kind of simmering around it? So it's that we don't just get off and go, oh, we'll really achieve something. Then we're like, just push it aside. So so that's definitely a bit of an issue that we're finding, and we really need to see, that I suppose the advantages of that is there are ways that we can pull ourselves out of it, and we can help ourselves, and we always have a choice. I always say this to all of our clients, and that's what's so important, that we always have that choice, and I never want to forget that well-being is such an incredible resource, and it's the one which needs to be at the forefront of our minds at all times. And again, for those who know me, they realize how passionate I am, but at the same time, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It takes discipline. Hey, like everything, it takes discipline. Like what you say, you've got your case of wine, or how easy would it have been going down that slippery slope to say, whatever. So,
too easy. That's the problem, right? Yeah, it's I guess hard to do the right thing well, and that comes down to your rituals and that kind of thing. And in some way, I feel like, having chatted with so many people and basically getting the flourishing vibe from everyone plus myself at times, I'm kind of like, we just need to shake it off and like kind of find some strategies to push us into that, I guess, thriving or flourishing, which is the words used in wellbeing a lot. That's probably a good segue, Nat, into, well, what are your like, how can people just move from where they are into a more positive trajectory, I guess, for wellbeing? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. And it's all comes down to the personality of your own style. And these are just some examples today that, hopefully that we might just get some sparks moving, and always good just to grab a pen and a paper. I don't know, maybe I was born with a pen in my hand, Tom, but I've continually got it in my hand.
You do have that. Yeah.
To write some notes. It's psychology of me, isn't it? But look, points with anything about how we can treat languishing, it does point back to mindfulness and CBT, or cognitive behavior therapeutic techniques, and also ACT, which is our acceptance and commitment therapy based interventions. So let me break that down there. So the first thing to do is that we really need to understand when we're feeling a certain way, okay, because as I said, that languishing is an emotion, okay, it's in a mood. So if we're feeling it, how do we know? We need to actually recognize that we are languishing in that time. Like, so are we feeling like, on a Saturday afternoon, like, when we normally would be doing ABC, but we ended up doing the other way. So learning to check in with yourself is a really important, aspect. I'm feeling, tired. Why might I be feeling tired right now? Is it because I was on my phone all night? Is it because I watched that extra episode of whatever season on Netflix, or, whatever Disney, Stan, all the other, tens of thousands of things that we can do to avoid it, doing the right thing. Is it because I'm, had too much to drink last night? Or what is it like? See if you can connect in with it and try and connect the behavior to the emotion, because that's where it's always going to play a part. And I'll talk about how we can separate that in a minute. So that's the important area. And I think as well is that one thing that I really like to tell everyone is that it's really important to celebrate the small wins. And that's where, again, a journal or a gratitude and reflecting upon the day, even if you've done the smallest things, it's something to acknowledge. We need to kind of start again. Remember, it's a little bit again, it's like that reset button, but we can reset it on ourselves as well. And having that time to acknowledge, even just small things like, I managed to clean out my inbox of my emails today, or I managed just to get back to people, or book in a time to, go get a health checkup, or, tiny little things that are requiring that a lot of motivation from you right now do need to be acknowledged, to say that you've done it. You need to tell yourself that. Even from an ACT kind of perspective and looking at mindfulness, and to do a bit of a tech cleanse. Savoring is a technique which is actually easy. It's about appreciating an event or an activity in the moment. We want to savor each moment. We used to like doing this when we used to go out for dinner, and and really tasting the food that we're eating, rather than sitting, talking, listening to music, like having that sensory overdrive where we could sit there and actually literally taste what we're eating and smell it and touch it and immerse ourselves into that. Now, we can do that even on a walk around the block, Tom. And I really like to do that when I feel really overwhelmed, because I've checked in with myself and I said, hey, I feel like I'm getting to a limit where I'm not being productive. I'm being a little bit negative. I'm even kind of slouching, my shoulders are going back. You know what? Stop. Put everything down, including my pen, and just get out and go for a walk. Now, on that walk, it doesn't have to be a 10K walk. It can just be literally a walk around the block. I grab a leaf and I hold it. I don't take my phone. I don't take anything tech related. And I grab my leaf and I just hold it. And that to me is a bit of a grounding effect. And just walking around a block, just hearing if there's trucks or if there's birds or if there's, like the rustling of the leaves, just seeing everything around me, taking the deep breaths just to get some fresh air, which really just helps to oxygenate the brain again. And then also, touching the leaf, smelling whatever's in the air and coming back. And it really is a level of reset. And so to not then take, the world isn't going to collapse within 10 minutes. And I think that we also need to tell ourselves that we can disconnect, and we might have to forcefully disconnect ourselves to do that. That can be very, very, very helpful there.
I like that. I like that one, Nat, because if you go on if you go on a website like news.com.au, it looks like the world's falling apart every 5 minutes. So by literally leaving your phone somewhere and going for a walk and doing what you're doing with the leaf, that's a great resetting one. I really like your point on the savoring the moment kind of concept as well, because if you think about it now, when people go to a restaurant, what's the first thing they're doing? They're on their phones, bloody taking photos of their food. Like just eat it and eat the thing and enjoy it. Yeah.
Enjoy the moment. And that goes with friends. Like, if you wanted to have a chat with a friend, or you haven't spoken to a friend for a really long time, like enjoy it, like really take in what you're talking about and even thank them at the end of that conversation to say, I really needed that. Like, or, this is what I got out of that conversation. I don't want that to come across as a little bit corny, but if we try it, we can just then see and check in again with ourselves and how that makes us feel, because this is what this whole languishing issue about. We don't want to just go on autopilot all the time, and then people might, wanting to, watch a funny movie, or, again, laughing with a family member, or playing a board game, or taking a bath. It's all those simple things that it's not just doing them and then just saying that they're doing them, and that's my mindfulness. It's about actually immersing yourself into it. I really love the random acts of kindness, and whether that's volunteering. We've been unfortunate. One of our little preppies sisters at school has been diagnosed with leukemia at the start of the year, and it was just really tragic. And that the family's just going through a bit of the really rough it's a rough time. And so we've really rallied together as all the prep parents and making sure this little boy is going to get an awesome 6-year-old birthday party. And so, it was a nice, make this little collection, and then for me to call the mum who's in hospital and say, right, okay, I know that you had this vision in mind of what the birthday party was going to be. You know what? We've got a present for him. We wait till you guys get out of hospital. So we'll put up, we've got this beautiful, massive trampoline, and it's going to be so exciting to show him that. But we know that you need a distraction in the hospital right now. Here's some money. Make the best party you could potentially make. And she's just beside herself. And you know what? That filled my bucket up for a whole year. Just to do that something that means so much to someone else, it actually doesn't take much effort to get around and do something for someone together that's going through that struggling time. So that really helps lift you up. And so volunteering can also be another area where people can do that, or just do even a 5-minute favor in the workplace, like introducing 2 people that you feel that could really benefit their trajectory for their little small business, or just even a podcast or an article that that they might be really interested in, or you think they might be, and just flick it to them and say, I thought you might be interested in this. And you never know where that goes. So they're the random acts of kindness that you can also incorporate in your day. That's actually really quite easy. It doesn't take much effort, but reaps a lot of rewards. I'm really into this new technique, which is called it's part of dialectal behavior therapy, or DBT. And I won't go too much into it, but it's super interesting if anyone wants to know any more about it. It's called opposite action. And so what it is, it's a skill that involves choosing to do exactly opposite of what your emotions telling you to do. And so it does require a little bit of discipline to get to that level. But when you think about it, we all have emotions that cause us to make choices we'd rather not make. That's because in the moment, our emotions are basically they override our logical part of our brain. And so that's where we want to identify, if we're experiencing a particular emotion in the first place. So again, going back to that check-in, self-check-in. But we do need to have that basic emotional literacy in place first, and for being able to implement that opposite action. But I'll give you an example. One we're pretty much feeling a lot of is lethargy. Which is when we can't be bothered making an effort, getting up, doing exercise, healthy eating. Everything is just like that slippery slope into the more of the bad habits in that way. What we try and do is our actions actually put us keep us in that emotional state. So we're saying, we can't be bothered. So then we don't be bothered. And that then fuels the area of I can't be when that's over, I can't be bothered. I'm not going to exercise. I'm just going to watch a movie. At the end of the movie, I better get up. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so this is where we need to actually try and separate that emotion from our behavior. And so trying to make a list, even if lethargy is one of those ones that we feel quite often at the moment, that we can do. So if we can make a list that we can do. So these can be like small, realistic wins again, right? So for example, if you are capable of doing something like, washing the dishes or putting a load of washing on, or tidying up, all these behaviors, they go directly against the feeling of lethargy. And so what we're trying to do is create that opposite emotional experience to then allow yourself to reflect. So, every morning I've been, again, I talk about discipline, and I try to wake up every morning. And I've brought in a lot of self-compassion, whereas last year I was very much, that positive psychology, get up and do your exercise for an hour. Now I go, okay, just get up and move. Okay. And when I say in the morning, like the alarm goes off, I'm like, the languishing, oh God, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
So what I then do is I go, how am I going to feel after that? I know that I feel great after that. I know I feel more energetic after that. And that's what actually gets me up, is actually the focus of the emotion post the behavior.
Yeah.
Not so much forcing myself to get and do it, because sometimes that then it kind of backfires. So if you can focus on the feeling after you complete the behavior, is that motivating enough for you to do it? So DBT plays on that, and again, like a lot of therapeutic techniques. It's probably more psychological and psychoanalytical there, not psychoanalytical, but like therapeutic. But yeah, a lot of our therapists work in that DBT area. Change of scenery. I noticed that you've got a beautiful little hut out the back there, Tom. You can ways, and I suppose being that any change of scenery and being a little bit kinesthetic in your day is going to you're going to have a lot more creativity that brings in, and even just changing your room set if you're still at home or virtually, even getting outside. And I've got to do a big write for a presentation. I can't wait now that I'm able to get to the library to do it. Something that's complete change and all the senses as well. It just brings different understanding, perspective, motivation. So
I love it.
That scenery.
Really, really good, Nat. So I guess when we're talking there, I start to think about the feelings that I would achieve if I went on a holiday. So, if I go on a holiday, I know by doing that, I'm going to come back with renewed perspective and feeling fresh, and like I've had a change of scenery, as you say. But I guess what you're saying there is we're just trying to think your actions through a little bit more. But a good one at the moment is, say, the gyms are now in Melbourne, they're now open, and that's, for a lot of people, that's where they know if they go there, they get a change of scenery, and they know that because they do that, they then get the feeling that they get when they do that exercise or do that routine or whatever is amazing. So it's kind of then that prompt to kick it, to sort of kick it back up again.
Yeah. And it's also that social connection that you have at a gym that people might be missing. It may not be so much the exercise. I mean, it's obviously that classical condition effect occurs when you do go into a gym for most people. But it's all about that connection that's a lot of people are also missing and really, concerned about. So now that now that lockdown, again, this time hasn't, and what we see on definitely outside is that when we're in lockdown, you kind of see an influx of people walking and exercising. When lockdown finishes, people don't do that. Keep going. It's you still want to be able to keep up with the patterns and the habits that you may have created that have been good, during this lockdown, that do require a different way of socially connecting. And I think that's really important as well, is that that's one of our worries, that, you do have that isolation, especially in languishing, because you can't be bothered. So again, it's a forced thing, and creating and being around those substance colleagues and those substance friends is really important to, as you said, just to keep. It's not a full tank. We're not aiming for a full tank yet. Let's be realistic. But if we can try and get halfway and 3/4, our car's going to run for a little bit longer, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah. Love it. Thanks so much, Nat. What a great summary of flourishing. Not flourishing. Languishing, the poor cousin of flourishing. No, thanks so much. I appreciate it. I feel like there's probably lots more topics that we could talk on via LinkedIn Live. So I guess if anyone's listening and they have any requests for future topics with Dr. Natalie Flatt, let us know, and or through our direct message, and we'll probably take that on and get cracking on it. But yeah, great to chat again, Nat. Thanks so much.
You too, Tom. You too. Okay, awesome. Take care, guys, and have that wine only on a Friday night. Okay, as you've started to wind down from there, and that's your little win. That's your little reward.
Thanks, Nat. I won't wind it up tonight. Take it easy. Thanks so much. See you.